This is History Myths and Myth-Conceptions. And today's myth-conception is Christmas and Sol Invictus. Why Christian churches decided to pick December the 25th as the birth date of Jesus Christ? We don't know for sure, but obviously religious institutions explain the decision in the context of Christian religion. Jesus was an actual historical figure, and at some point the church made careful calculations and figured out that December the 25th is the day Jesus was born. So if you use the Gregorian calendar, you celebrate it on December the 25th. And if you use Julian, then after the conversion, it falls on January the 7th. Obviously, people who question religious dogma and try to look for the historical explanation have different theories. Since Jesus is a mythological character and not a historical figure, he doesn't have a real date of birth. The date of birth is either made up, which is normal, just another religious holiday, or it is actually based on something. Usually it is linked to the ancient holiday of Saturnalia, which was celebrated in Roman religion from December the 17th to December the 23rd. And it sounds believable, and there are certain comparable ideas in Christmas celebrations and Saturnalia celebrations, like presents. Because although initially Christmas was a religious holiday, at some point it pretty much ceased to be religious in many parts of the world and became quite secular. But what about the date of December the 25th? As you probably heard, this exact date is linked with another, later Roman holiday, the celebration of the birth, or a rebirth, of Sol Invictus, the Unconquered Sun, which became the main deity of the Roman religion in later periods. And this is where we have a couple of serious problems. First of all, yes, the link between Christianity and the cult of Sol, and also the link with Mithraism, where Sol is the principal deity. Well, this link makes a lot of sense. We don't know much about these two cults. They seem to have influenced Christianity much more than the Christians will ever admit. Also, I don't really want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but there is a certain suspicion that Christians deliberately destroyed most of the information on Mithraism and the cult of Sol Invictus. So it is pretty much impossible to reconstruct the core of these cults. And there is a lot of room for speculation. That said, the idea that December the 25th was the celebration of the birth of the sun and the winter solstice, and this is the reason why Christians just mechanically copied the date and declared the birthday of Jesus. Well, yeah, it sounds very believable, but it can't be presented as a fact. And sometimes it is presented as a fact, which is absolutely incorrect. It is not a fact. It is a speculation. Where do we get the information about this prominent Roman holiday? What are the sources? And this is where it kind of falls apart. There is only one source. It is not very reliable, and you have to use your imagination. The source of this December the 25th celebration of Sol Invictus comes from a weird document known as the Chronograph of 354, or the Calendar of 354. This is a strange artifact, an interesting compilation of various texts and pictures supposedly produced in the year 354. Obviously, there is no original. It either hasn't survived or never existed at all. There are only copies. The oldest was produced in the 17th century, and that's probably when this artifact first popped up. One of the pages of this calendar of 354 mentions, in abbreviated form, some holiday called Birth of the Unconquered, Natalis Invicti. It was celebrated on December the 25th, and there were games and races. That's it. No, seriously, that's it. This is the only source where December the 25th is mentioned as this birth of Unconquered. And actually, it doesn't necessarily refer to Sol Invictus. Invictus is not his last name. It just means unconquered. It can be used as an epithet of another god or even a human. Then, based on a couple of other additional sources, like the infamous Historia Augusta, someone made a link from this Invictus to some other sources that mention that, yeah, there were religious celebrations of Sol Invictus. Does this link make sense? Yes, it does. Is it a believable theory? Yes, it is. Is it a fact and a proof that December the 25th was the birth of the sun and then it was borrowed by Christians? No, of course not.